Namaste. Namaste. In this video, let's discuss classification of assets for the treatment of provisions. Before diving into a concept, we'll discuss the background of the concept, basics of the concept. Here, bank. How does bank functions? Bank collect and distribute funds. Funds. Bank collects funds in the form of deposits. Now, deposits are repayable on as and when the customer is demanded. Therefore, this is known as liabilities. Now, bank's fund is distributed among customers. Therefore, this is known as the loans are known as assets. Why does the loan is distributed? Generation of revenue or future inflow of cash. Therefore, this is known as assets. Loans are also called as advances. Once this basic is understood, then we'll com- comment on this part. What if it is due? Now, let's say customer A due date is today. Today is the due date. If failed to pay, then what happens? Principal EMI. Let's take an example of EMI so that it will be easier to understand. EMI has two components. One is principal component, the other one is interest component. Now, interest, let's say outstanding, then how do you address this? We address this as earned but not received. Transactions are recorded based on accrual concept. Therefore, you consider this outstanding as an asset till the date of repayment. Here in the balance sheet, what it is doing? Assets are increasing. How it is increasing? Whenever sorry whenever customer failed to pay, then assets are increasing. Why it is increasing? Outstanding income will become an asset till the date of repayment by the customer. To address this issue and produce balance sheet in true and fair view, we charge provisions. Provisions to address this issue. Now, provisions on, let's say if it is a other than banking company, then provision is calculated based on previous default of the customer's history. Now, let's say we used to sell, assume we used to sell 200 lakhs in sales, and for each lakh or each 100 lakh, the bad debt is expected to be 2 lakhs. Then what is a total bad debt? 4 lakhs. This is how it is been estimated. But in for the purpose of banks, in the Banking Regulation Act, it is given the provision classification. We have to follow those classifications. So this is the important here. Bank collect the fund in the form of deposit, which are liabilities. Bank distribute the funds in the form of loans or advances, which are assets. Okay, then these assets we are talking of, these assets we discussed in details. What if the due date customer is failed to repay, and how it affects the books of accounts, and how it increases the assets, how it increases the assets. Here assets have been increased because we have earned something, but which we have not received it, we considered as outstanding income, which will receive in future. So till we receive, we consider this amount as asset. Then what does assets will what does happens to assets? Assets will increase when customer is default. Now in actual sense, what it would have been done in the results, it has to show assets have been diluted or reduced because 1,000 rupees have given to you as a loan and you are not paying back to me, then my assets are gone. But I am expecting that you will repay in future date. So this expectation at a cost. Sir, no, I can't expect 100% you will repay. I can expect that at least 80% you will repay. 20% is the loss, expected loss. In the similar fashion, we have classified assets into two groups. The first part is known as performing asset, the other part is known as non-performing assets. Now we discuss the same. Yeah, here we classify an assets. Asset classified into two groups. The first part is known as performing assets. This is also known as standard assets. Standard assets. The other part is known as non-performing assets. Assets. How do we classify assets into performing and non-performing? From due date, up to 90 days. Dues outstanding from due date to within 90 days, then we classify it into performing asset. If it is more than 90 days, then we classify it into non-performing assets. Under non-performing assets, we have three different classifications. The first classification is known as substandard. Substandard assets. The second classification is known as doubtful assets. The third classification is called as loss assets. Now here, substandard, after 90 days After 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 90 days after 90 days of standard assets after 90 days of standard assets up to 1 year, it is known as substandard assets. Under this, we classified into three sub classifications: secured, which means the loan is provided with securities. Then, such loan is called as secured loan. The second classification is known as unsecured loan. The third classification is known as escrow account with escrow account. Now we'll take small example for escrow account. Escrow account is common in the field of constructions. I'll take the same example. Let's say you are the construct construction agent and you have a contract from your client your client. Now you need money to continue with the client's demand, but client is saying I'll provide you the amount of money in the installment basis as and when you complete certain stages as mutually agreed. Let's say first, who has to put the money? Constructing agent, you. Now what you will do, you will consult a bank and you will say this is our project, we need money in this kind of installment, and once the installment is due, the client will repay. Who is repaying? Client will repay. Who is taking loan? Took a loan taken by constructing agent. Now what bank will do? Bank will collect whatever client which is been repaid. He will do partition of fund. Let's say 70-30. 30 bank will keep it for the repayment purpose and 70 will hand over to customer, which means percentage. 70% will be given to constructing agent and 30% towards loan. This is how escrow account works. This is just for your information. Okay. Now we have doubtful. Under doubtful, we classified this into periodical basis. Doubtful from when? This is how we classify. Up to 1 year. Then we have more than 1 year, more than 1 year, up to 3 years. Then we classify into more than 3 years, more than 3 years. For loss asset, there is no time period. After 3 years, the day when the bank loses its interest, loses its trust, day on which bank loses its trust, then it will considered as loss assets. This is the basic classification of non-performing assets and performing assets. Here under performing assets, under performing assets. Under performing assets, we classified based on purpose of loan. Now, we'll classify performing assets subclassifications. First classification for the purpose of agriculture. For the purpose of agriculture. The second purpose for the purpose of real estate. Under real estate, there are two subclassifications. The first classification is residence purpose. Residence purpose. Third classification is, subclassification is, second subclassification is commercial. Commercial purpose. Then we have restructured. Restructured NPA. Okay, we'll take small example. Before January, before person A has considered as NPA, but on February 10th, he paid all his dues. All his dues and is promptly paying on March. March also he paid on date. On April. On April also he paid on date. Let's say May 2nd was the due date. He failed to pay. Then we classify under restructured NPA. This is just basic example to you to understand what is restructured NPA. Before he was NPA, then he was promptly paying, then now again he is failed to pay due. This kind of customer is classified under restructured NPA. Then we have others. Now agriculture. What is the provision on agriculture? Is 0.25 percentage. On residence purpose 0.75 percentage. On commercial 1%. Provision is 1%. On restructured it is 5%. And this percentage has been fixed by law in Banking Regulation Act, and other purpose is 0.4%. Other than this, then 0.4%. In the case of non-performing assets, under substandard assets, secured asset is charged for provision is 20%, unsecured is 25%, secured is 15%, unsecured is 25%, escrow account then 20%. Then we have doubtful up to 1 year or within 1 year from substandard assets, then 40%. If it is more than from 1 year to 3 years, then 40%, right? Yes. Up to 1 year it is 25%. From 1 year to 3 years, then it is 40%. More than 3 years, then 100%. In loss asset case, it is 100%. These are the provisions to be charged on specific assets. Now, we'll write a timeline. It is already discussed, but now to in a single line, we'll write it from when to when we consider what. From due date up to 90 days. I'm using the word up to. After being s- performing asset, till when it is performing asset? 90 days. After 90 days, up to 1 year. 1 year we call it as substandard assets. After being substandard assets, it means first it has become performing asset or standard asset, then it has become substandard asset. Even then he is not paying, then we consider into doubtful. Till what period you consider into doubtful? 3 years. 3 years you consider into doubtful. This 3 years has different parameters. Up to first 1 year, from what? Substandard asset to 1 year, it is 25%. Then after 1 year to 3 years, it is 40%. After 3 years and more, it is 100%. When you consider into loss asset, when bank loses trust on customer. Customer, on that day it will consider into loss assets. With this, we have discussed the full concept of asset classification for the purpose of provision treatment. In the next video, we'll discuss with the sums.